Hey, everybody, welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello, and today I've got Clint McPherson on the show. Clint, welcome.
I appreciate it, brother. Chris, man, thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm just excited to be able to talk to you, brother.
Absolutely. Same here, man. And so I have your bio pulled up here. Just want to let the audience know quickly who you are. So you are the founder of McPherson Marketing Group, and that's a digital marketing agency located in Wake Forest, North Carolina. You're also the co-host of That Entrepreneur Life. That's a cool name, a podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. You're a 3-tour U.S. Army veteran, infantry officer. Thank you for your service, like I mentioned before we hit record, with a background in leadership and management spanning over a decade. And then as an entrepreneur, you strive daily to add value by helping other hardworking entrepreneurs experience success in and out of the workplace. And then you are married to your wife, Tiffany, and you currently live in Central North Carolina with your 2 boys, Tristan and Cameron. Awesome, man. Family man as well. Love it.
For sure, man. I mean, family's very important. And as an entrepreneur, man, we got to figure out how to find that balance. And so it's so important to stay a family man and not let the business consume you, right?
I love that. And then make sure you're working on the business, not always in it, so you can build it in a way where you can actually prioritize those things that are important to you, like your family, instead of becoming a slave to your business. And so I'm really excited today. We're going to be talking about programming your mind for success. And you said you've got an ebook. We can drop all those resources later, but we're going to talk about some of those things here today. So yeah, man, like let's jump in. Let's just do conversational style like we talked about. I mean, when did you program your mind for success? Were you always success driven, or was this more recent?
Well, no, see, programming your mind success, I think, is a continual journey, right? I think it's a process that's ever evolving, because even as you're going and programming your mind for success, there's always hurdles and roadblocks that get in your way, to where, you know, if you really have that success implemented, or that mindset that you want to be successful, the positive affirmations and all that stuff, you can figure out a way to get around anything that's thrown at you, but it slows you down, right? So again, programming your mind for success and implementing things and having those, I would say, rituals to a certain degree, something that you stay dedicated, whether it's working out, staying healthy, eating right, you know, finding time for your family, you know, that trying to find that work-life balance. And I think, again, man, it's a continuous process. And I think programming your mind for success never ends.
I love that answer right there, because it's not like you just flip the switch and now you're done. A lot of people think, oh, I already read that book, I don't need to read it again. I used to be guilty of that as well. Right. But what you said there, of that it's a never ending journey, that is entrepreneurship and just becoming a better person. Self-development never ends. It's a daily thing.
No doubt. And that's perfect that you just said that. And just, you know, you're reaffirming the mindset that it's still, again, with me, evolving, right? And then you're looking at the entrepreneurial industry as a whole. You know, it's a very attractive and could be a very lucrative, you know, industry to be in and be a part of, right? Because again, when you look at it, it tracks probably hundreds of thousands of people every year that really want to do their own thing. They're tired of doing the traditional 9 to 5. And everybody wants to own their own business, right? But everyone wants to reap the rewards that come with that independent success, but it's not always that easy, man. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's a grind, it's a hustle. It's a mindset that you have to continuously dig into and pull things out of yourself that you didn't even know you had the motivation or power to do sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
Because the more time that, you know, that you spend with your family and the ability to work for yourself rather than someone else, again, man, it's so everybody wants to do it, right? I mean, but becoming an entrepreneur, like I just said, man, it isn't easy. And when you look at it, and that's really what it comes down to, and that's why me and Andrew started our podcast on Entrepreneur Life, because we want to get other entrepreneurs on our show, on our podcast, and talk about entrepreneurship and their actual journey. Because that entrepreneurial life is something that everybody can relate to. That's an entrepreneur, right? Because not everybody's entrepreneurial journey is the same. We all go through different things get thrown at us because all our lives are different. But man, we can all understand each other at the end of the day, and it's powerful, right?
It really is. And I mean, like you said, it's just helpful to have other entrepreneurs to talk to. I mean, and many times our families may not even understand. Maybe, I'm not sure if your wife works with you or works full time. I know my girlfriend worked at an accounting firm for quite some time. And so she had the 9 to 5. She goes to work and she goes to the office, and here I am figuring out what to do all day because it's just me and I'm at home, and I guess I'll take the dogs out and take care of the home stuff because I have the flexibility.
Right.
But at the end of the day, that did mean I had a guaranteed paycheck, right? It was like, well, I can't just sit here and read a book and make coffee and not take action because that doesn't bring in any commissions or income or whatever down the road. So, like you said, I mean, it's very helpful just having these conversations, talking to entrepreneurs. Our businesses don't all look the same, but we can relate to the feelings of the ups and the downs and the constant roller coaster every single day, right? I mean, morning you might be like, oh, I'm the king of the world, I'm figuring this out. By noon you're like, oh man, I really don't know what I'm doing, my business is going to fail. And then the end of the day you're like, should I just wind down my LLC or whatever?
Exactly, man. But it's the never ending roller coaster, right? That
Right.
it's the entrepreneurial journey that we're on. There's ups, there's downs. You can be flying for a while and then now you're crashing and tumbling and just, taking a kick in the balls, right? I mean, sometimes, dude, it's just one of those things that it's never an easy path. But again, the more you put into it, like if you want to become financially independent, right, and get more time to spend with your family, because that's a huge goal and why I really became an entrepreneur at the end of the day, right? You got to be prepared to spend some money on yourself for continued education. And sometimes it's really like when you first start out, you're going to have to sacrifice things. Sometimes that is sacrificing some family time for your continued education or for you to take this trip somewhere to go do this and get that done. But man, it all at the same time, man, there's goals that you have to work towards, and you got to keep that vision there, because if that vision somehow falls off, you're going to again be around your house. You're going to say, oh, well, I can go feed the dog. I can go walk the dog. And now, like you said, at the end of the day, you might not get anything done. But it's funny how you bring that up, because as individuals that are flexible, right, with our own schedule, whether we're working from home, whether we're out and about, people that don't understand the life that we live or how we go out and try to make this money, they kind of like, you work from home, bro? Like what? Like, oh, you do have time to do laundry. You do have time to do this. But it's like, nah, I'm working, right? Like at the end of the day, like I have to know when to cut that off though, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the rewards that we continue to hustle and grind for, they're great and certainly worth it at the end of the day. But it's going to take some hard work, right? Like I just said, it's not easy. And so that's really, when it comes down to it, the process needs, you got to refine your process and make it as painless as possible, and help you and make sure you continuously put tools in your tool belt that makes you successful that much more quickly, right?
Agreed. I just saw on a friend's Instagram story the other day. I'm in real estate here in Houston, Texas, and he's in real estate in Dallas. So he's still in Texas, but like 4 hours away in his market. And the thing that really resonated with me, he updated his story like around noon yesterday, I think. And he was just saying like, hey, so I'm hitting that point of the day where like, I'm not really sure what to work on right now. And that happens sometimes in your business. So with entrepreneurs at any level, I mean, I'm sure when you're working at home, like you might have a couple things that are on your to-do list, but then you get them done and it's a never ending, always evolving list of things to do. Yep. But sometimes you hit that wall where you're like, well, what do I do? What is the best next use of my time? And so it's just interesting to like really think about, where do I want to go? Have that vision, your why, like you mentioned, and then understand what are the things that I actually need to do. And laundry, is that on my list? Is that really, really important to do right now? Or do I need to actually do this thing that's going to make me money in my business where I can afford to pay someone to do my laundry, something like that?
No, I totally agree, man, because again, it's about like trying to figure out, and the part of this whole programming your mind for success is trying to cut out things that aren't money-making actions, right?
Right.
Like, again, it's all about, at the end of the day, you don't want to be that car salesman. You don't want to be that individual that's pushy, that everybody like doesn't even want to talk to, but you got to find ways and creative ways to make money and get a competitive advantage over whatever you want to deem your competition. But, like I said on our podcast before, competition, I don't even see it as that, because we all have the same opportunity. Just because you might be in the same niche as me or whoever that, is in the digital marketing niche with me, I'm focused on, providing, the best in class marketing services in industry solutions for small businesses. But when it comes down to it, we're trying to change the way we do digital marketing, to incorporate technology and like a service hybrid approach. But when it comes down to it, man, again, it's like we can all learn from each other, right? So if it was like, hey, Chris, what do you do for a living, man? And you're like, hey, I do digital marketing, bro. Like, I'm in that same space, but there's so many people that kind of back off or they're hesitant once they find out you do the same thing that they do, because they view you as competition. But it's like, I'm not scared of that. Like, dude, I'm vulnerable right here. I'll put down my shield and my sword right now. Let's talk shop, bro. Like, what are you doing? How can I help you first? Right. And then it's the same thing. It's one of those give and take. Hey, can I be on your podcast? Sure, dude. You're on my podcast. Now we have this friendship, and now we can talk that business and we can break down all that stuff. But it's like, I don't see why when people go to these networking events and all this stuff that like they're like so standoffish, bro. And so, but so podcasters true. And why I'm in the podcast industry, man, is because of that fact is that wall is like knocked down, brother. Like people, it's so different, and it's mind boggling. I'm like, it took a damn podcast
to break those walls down.
To break those walls down. And I'm like, that's crazy, bro. But but I love it, man. And I think, again, like you doing your podcast and grinding and that 240 something episodes, dude, congratulations on that. But at the end of the day, man, putting that grind in and doing that work, you're laying that foundation that needs to be laid for your success, right?
Absolutely. You're just doing the reps at that point. I mean, I mentioned this to someone else the other day that I sent someone a podcast. You know, you kind of mentioned sometimes when people ask what you do, I kind of introduce myself as, well, I'm a real estate expert in Houston and I have a podcast. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Podcast. Can you send it to me? They always ask you, I don't know if you've seen this as well, because a lot of your friends, like many of them won't have a podcast. I mean, I guess my friends from before entrepreneurship, now a lot of them do, but my childhood friends are all like, oh, like send me the link. I'll check it out. Right. And so whenever you send the link over and someone sees that you've done, 240 plus or however many podcasts, if they see you only did 4 and the last one hasn't been uploaded since a year ago, they're like, okay, you got a podcast with air quotes. Like you don't really have one. You made 4 episodes and they're like 5 minutes each. If they see that you consistently produce 2 a week or 3 a week or at least 1 a week for years, that says something about who you are. And I'm sure you've seen that as well. But I love what you said there before I kind of just talked about this whole podcast consistency thing, that podcasters' walls are just lowered. They're adding so much value and they're not afraid of having their quote unquote competition, because we actually need other content creators to come on our show to help us to put out more content, unless we want to do 1 million solo episodes. Right. And so I've found that it's a very collaborative space instead of being competitive, like, oh, I can't tell you my podcasting secrets. No, we can all win. It's not like a zero-sum game. If you win, doesn't mean that I lose. We can both win. Exactly. 1 + 1 can equal 3.
For sure. I like that idea too. And I like that mindset, because when you look at it, man, look, all I'm trying to do is add value to the world.
Right.
And so even if that's through another digital marketing agency that wants to team up, because I've done that in the past, right? People are like, hey, dude, you do this good. Like, how about you piggyback onto this deal that we just got, and then you do your thing. And so we can do our thing over here, right? Because I do offer video services, but that's one of the things, again, I rely on another company to help me out with that, right?
Right.
And so my thing is the podcasting space, whether you're a digital marketer or not, and you're something totally different, it doesn't matter. Because again, those walls are lowered. You can sit there. It's a win for everybody. You're creating additional content. You're continuing to create that consistency that we all need, that all businesses don't see. It validates what you're doing, right? It actually gives you a platform to say, look, I've actually recorded 245 episodes, bro. Like, right. I'm not somebody is stagnant, right? Like somebody whether you release once a week, I don't know how you're recording or how you drop your recordings. But at the end of the day, man, it's that consistency that they can see. It's that validation, and like, okay, hey, Chris Bella knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about in the entrepreneur space. He's motivational. He is creating motivational content that can definitely, give me that kick in the butt and to continue to go. And you're also pulling that information from other individuals too, right? It's not just Chris sitting there saying this. You're bringing other individuals like myself or whoever else you've had on the past to come and give that little kick in the butt for people that need that extra motivation. And again, that's another reason why we started that entrepreneur life, because we all know that entrepreneurs, it's not easy, and you need that extra kick in the butt from time to time to get motivated, because we all go through those depressing times when that roller coaster's hit and we're like, oh, should we jump off the ship? No, brother, stay committed to the journey, embrace it, because the ups and downs come. But man, at the end of the day, if you quit or throw in the towel, you basically quit, right? That means your journey's over. But as long as us as entrepreneurs look at failure not being an option, you might fail at this specific task, but how can you pivot? How can you do this? How can your mind be programmed for success so no matter what, that word failure doesn't even exist in your vocabulary, to where you could continue to drive forward and continue to add value and know that, hey, if I can't add value in this area, what is your like superpower, right? You got to look at like, what am I good at? What motivates me every day to continue to create this content? What am I even doing my podcast for? Knowing your why is so super important, because that is your superpower, right? You know your why. That's how you can add the value that this person over here is not adding to the world, right?
Love that. There's a quote from Eric Thomas that it just always gives me goosebumps, where he's like, no alarm clock needed. My passion wakes me up. My ability to be, do, and have whatever I want, it wakes me up. I'm just like, oh, I mean, I still need an alarm to wake up. Otherwise I would probably sleep, a lot longer than I should. But the idea there of just having a reason to wake up, I mean, that alone is enough to get you out of bed. Instead of hitting the snooze button, you're excited to wake up and pursue your dreams. You have that vision of what your purpose is. And I'm still trying to dial in mine, just to be completely honest, because up to this point, it was like make X amount of money. And then this year I had another goal too. And then it really made me think like, well, I need something more than just the money. I want to impact people's lives positively. I can't just say, oh, I want to make six figures or like 100 grand a month, like in 5 years. That's a cool goal, but it doesn't really mean anything other than income to me at that point, right? So what's my real why? Like, how many people am I helping a month? How many charities am I donating to? That kind of thing is what I'm really working on drilling down to. And it sounds like you're probably a little further ahead on that part than I am in terms of really knowing your why, your family, your kids, your wife. I'm sure those are part of that as well. So that's extremely powerful.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I really think digging down and just, it's almost like, what do you do outside of this podcast, brother?
So outside of this podcast, I'm a real estate agent, and I have done some wholesaling, off market, flipping contracts, basically.
Nice, brother. Yeah. So therefore, like, your why, sitting down, and it's almost like, okay, a real estate agent or anything else, like when you're creating a business, you have to have a business plan, right? Yeah. A lot of that time, that means going to the drawing board. And my drawing board is a whiteboard, right? You go down and you mind map things out, whether that's on your computer, because that's what a lot of people do digitally now, or going to the old school whiteboard like I do, because I like, once I think you write something out, I believe it almost etches it into your brain, right? And again, the positive affirmations. And really the ultimate factor to your success when you look at it is your whole mindset, man. And you have to know, the next step that you're going to take in the journey. Sometimes you can't really forecast it, but it's almost like your staircase. So if I know in my business, I have this service that I offer, or this is my leg in, or this is my entry offer, I always have to have that staircase method to keep adding value, or at least have services that will continue to add value for my clients, right? So if I build them a website, they're going to need SEO eventually. If they want to be a contender, right? They're going to need Google ads or some kind of pay-per-click marketing that I could continue to add. But so I know my journey in my business, and I know the evolution it has to take. And I think as an individual and as an entrepreneur, you kind of got to do the same thing with yourself. And you kind of got to know, okay, my next step is this mind map. There's a difference than throwing a number up on a board or in your head and say, I want to make $1 million. I got it. But what actions are you taking are going to get you to that $1 million that you want to achieve? And for some reason, what are you doing? Is it sleeping in right now? Because that sure as hell is not going to get you closer to that $1 million, right? Unless you have something set up in play that's making you money while you sleep. And a lot of people don't have that residual income or know how to make that residual income. So it really comes down to you again, taking those actions, or at least knowing what journey you want to go down and embracing it. Because like you said, there's ups and downs, brother. But man, the ultimate factor to success when at the end of the day, and the reason we release this ebook called, Program Your Mind for Success as an Entrepreneur, is because when it comes down to it, that mindset, you have to determine, and how does a determined mindset actually separate yourself from the competition? Because if I'm determined as hell to do something, brother, believe me, I'm gonna find a way to do it. And believe me, if I have to be that guy that sleeps 2 hours a night to make it happen, because I know that is part of the process, and because I know that has to be done, I'll do it, man. You know what I'm saying? So a determined mindset will get you so much further in life.
That's really powerful. And as a digital marketer, I'm sure you follow some people like Russell Brunson.
For sure.
He talks about the value ladder. I heard you say stairs. I wrote down stairs, just having something, your clients are going to want SEO down the road, and maybe they'll want a different plan, and maybe they want you to do it all instead of teaching them. And so you have that's something I need to work on in my business, because sometimes in sales, commission, it can be like a one-time thing. And how many people are going to really buy or sell a house within a 5 or 10 year period? Exactly. Not many, unless events come up or people need to move for work. But in a business like yours, I can find ways to. I'm not coming up with excuses. I'm just saying there's ways you can have a value ladder where you give a service, you give your primary thing that you offer to everybody, and then you can stack on services or complementary things, or maybe even like some kind of other thing, like, hey, I got you the house, you want insurance, I also do that. Right. If it makes sense. Or like you mentioned earlier, you can have partners that fulfill that for you, so you're not handling it, but you make the referral and you can get a commission back, something like that. Exactly. So there's a lot of opportunities there that a lot of times we're not even thinking about.
Yeah. And there's so many niches, like for me, that I'm like, okay, well, are any of these services doing them justice, or do they really need to because I remember making the mistake in my business. It was like, hey, I'm gonna develop websites. I'm gonna build websites for everybody, and it was a one-time transaction. I wasn't even thinking about that when I got in the game. Right. I was like, dude, I know how to do these website builds.
I'm just gonna build it.
I'm just gonna build it. They're gonna come, boom. I'm killing it. And yeah, I killed it but it has a ceiling, brother. Because you only can service so many local businesses before.
And how many sites can you make?
Exactly. Yeah. Like I've already made all the websites. Like, what's going on? Like, but that ends because if you do it right, they're not going to need to update that thing unless they continue to have content. So it's like having that service or maintenance package, so I can continue to make sure getting them on, a hosting plan with me. Those are all important to kind of have that residual income coming in, because if you don't, again, it's a one-time transaction but in real estate, those are niches that, I'm powerful in, as far as like, hey, do you need to generate leads? I know all these companies will help you do that. And I know like most real estate agents, they have, these businesses that, you can like KW Williams or whatever, like KW Realty or whatever these realty companies are. And they'll have these things where you can buy them. Yeah, you can buy all these leads, but it's like,
they're not really great leads.
Yeah, they're not really great leads, brother. They're not hot off the press. They're like, okay, how old are these leads? One, and where did you buy them from, brother? Like, Carmen over there get the same leads as I did, because right. Now we're reaching out at the same
person,
and then it's like, man, this is garbage. So you got to really find your way to how you separate yourself. And again, like finding specific niches this year has been powerful. And towards the end of last year, once COVID hit, we had to pivot, and it was like I wasn't focused on lead generation for clients. Now that's a service that I offer, to where it's like, hey, do you need leads? Whether you're a solar company, whether you're a real estate agent, whether you're a chiropractor, whether you're a dentist, whatever you are, I can build a funnel for you. I can set it up to where automatically, boom, that lead comes in, they get an email, they get a text message coming directly from you as the business owner. Now that you get the same thing on your end, saying, hey, you got a hot lead that just came in, you might want to give them a call, or have somebody like a virtual assistant or somebody that works in your office, give them a call ASAP, because the longer they sit there untouched, the less warm they are, right? They go from hot to cold to not even wanting to mess with you, because they just filled that form out. They just click the submit button, but they're not hearing from you. And it's that touch point. How many touch points do you have to land that client? How much do you actually have to incorporate? And then when everything's automated, man, it makes life so much easier, to where it's like, man, like I just show up, brother. I got a lead. I give them a call, set it up, sell them a house, let them sell their house, whatever
Rinse
it
and
is.
repeat.
It's rinse and repeat, brother. And that's the good thing about real estate, man. It's
Yeah.
a rinse and repeat process that, yeah, you're going to run into some things that are different. You're going to run into some, the price points for houses are different. The customers' wants and needs are different, but that's the easy stuff, man, because all you got to do there is listen. And that's, as an entrepreneur, it's very important to listen to what they're saying and not push upon them all your services or all your offerings, because that's going to run them off, man.
Man, everyone listening, rewind that back and listen to that part that you just talked about, because listening is so key. And this is something that I've struggled with personally, because I'm a talker. I like to talk and just let people know and, finish sentences for them. But what you said there, I mean, it's so true. The clients know what they want. They know what their concerns are. Half the time, if you just listen to them and let them talk it out, they'll even find the solution on their own and be like, oh, actually, this isn't that big of a deal. Don't worry about it. I changed my mind. If you try to offer a service or a solution too soon, you may give them the wrong thing, right? You're trying to give them the square or the circle that fits the square peg or whatever. It doesn't fit what they're looking for. And at the same time, you probably are going to be doing more work than you need to, answering a problem that's not even really a problem. Maybe they're just trying to vent to you, or maybe they just want to make sure that you understand what the situation is. So that's something for everyone out there. Make sure to listen and then pause, think about what you want to respond with, and come up with your response to your client, just to avoid future heartache and headache from overworking if you don't need to.
Yeah, for sure. I agree 100%, my man. And I think when you look at it as an entrepreneur, our minds are never off, right?
Right.
That's always working. And that's one of the first things we need to understand. And sometimes it drives my wife crazy, because I'm just random, man. Like, a thought will come into my head. I'll say something. I
gotta do this.
Like, she's in mid conversation or I'm in mid conversation, and I just blurt something random out. And it like throws her off for a second. She's like, dude, what just happened? Like, in the middle of a full blown sentence, or we're talking and discussing something, and then now you just say Cheetos or whatever it is, right? And you're just like, what? Cheetos? Like, that wasn't even what we're talking about, right? For me, it's like, okay, email market or something that I needed to do at that time that I was thinking about. And again, my mind wasn't turned off. Even though I was present to a degree with my wife having that conversation, I'm still always thinking about, like, if we're watching TV or whatever, I'm always thinking about what I can do next. How can I better my services or offerings? And so I randomly say something. And again, no matter what we're doing, no matter when where we are in the world, and no matter how, like, when it comes down to it, we are currently feeling, our mindset is still working, whether it's a positive thing or a negative thing, right? And it could be better or worse. And so when you look at it, the meaning behind that, of course, is that it's everything in our life is affected by our mindset. And if we can figure out how to program it for success, even with our family life, or our inside of our business, the way we handle ourselves with members of the opposite sex or opposite race, or like with all the hate and violence going on in this world, man, it's just the mindset can take us to so far better places. We all got to be on board to make ourselves better in various ways. And listen, again, is a powerful thing, because, I might hear you speaking, but that doesn't mean I'm listening to you speak. And I really think that's a powerful thing, is when you break it down, when you're with a client, when you're with anybody in your real estate business or whatever it is, man, it's listening to their wants and needs and making sure that you really understand it. Because me, as a digital marketing agency owner, I have to really listen to my clients. I have to really understand what they're trying to accomplish. Yeah. I got to find out who their avatar is, right? I sit down with so many business owners that don't even know the basics of that. Like, what do you mean an avatar? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I just want to sell to everybody. But I got it. We all want to sell to everybody. We all want to make that sale, right? But programming your mind to understand what you need to do to, again, not go after everybody and make the offering so powerful that it does attract everybody, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I just heard about this. I'm not sure if you've joined any Clubhouse rooms or anything lately. Have you checked it out?
I can't get a Clubhouse invite, bro.
Dang. Well, hey, if you get it, man, I'll shoot you. I don't know how to invite because I just try to send one. I got a couple left. So yeah, if you
Yeah,
download the app and you have your username
I
reserved,
got
I
it,
can
man.
send you the invite. But it's been really cool because you can jump in a room, and I know you talked about this earlier. I didn't want to like just jump on and talk about Clubhouse, but
Yeah, yeah.
when you want to connect with other entrepreneurs and you're feeling kind of lonely, especially with the COVID stuff going on, you're like, man, there's no
Sure.
events happening, and I could jump on a Zoom call, but half the time the cameras are turned off and no one's even participating on those calls. And so it's been really interesting to just jump in different rooms with entrepreneurs in a specific category and just
No
vent and
doubt.
talk and ask questions. And I've gotten so much great feedback that way. But the thing is, you have to listen really well, because that's all you can do. There's no video; it's just audio. And so when you're listening and you hear people's questions, it's very interesting to just see like the moderators and the experts in the room. They're
Yeah.
very good at actually providing a great answer to whatever it is that you're looking for. And I asked a question that other people asked more questions to find out. I was like, hey, I'm in real estate. I've gotten most of my leads organically through my network. I want to do more paid ads. What do you think the best first use of my money is in terms of ads? And they didn't just tell me an answer. They asked me questions to get better clarity. And
Exactly.
that was one piece of advice that lined up with what you just said is like, who's your avatar? Who's your primary client? Like, who do you want
Right.
to market to? Is it a 30-year-old who buying their first home, or is it someone buying their second home and moving up? Right.
Yeah.
So that affects your marketing message. But because I've been the whole like, I'll work with whoever wants to do anything in real estate, I don't have that defined, which is probably hurting me in my marketing. Because if you speak to everyone, you speak to no one is basically what
Right.
it sounds like you
Exactly.
told me, right?
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, look, we all are guilty of that when we start off. And I'm
Yeah.
telling you, man, dude, red flags. What red flags? You know what I'm
Right. No,
saying?
like we're
Like
good.
whatever. Like I can see it. The writing's on the wall. Okay, I can do this and it'll be all fine, right? Just because it's me. That doesn't work,
Nope.
brother. Red flag is a red flag, and to avoid them as much as possible, right? There are some things that might throw up some red flags, but like you just said, man, you get those extra questions. You just ask the question, you get those extra questions from that questions, and it spurns more conversation. And it helps
Yes.
you become, again, it helps you in your mind become more clear of your objective. And it also gets those questions asked or answered that you didn't even think about at that time when you ask your questions. Because generally, when we have one question, we don't want to be that guy that asks all the questions. So we just ask that one question. But then you're like, oh, look at
I
all
got more
these people from
questions.
Clubhouse, man. Dude, this is gold, right? Because this is setting me up for better success because now they're asking me questions that I didn't even think about asking or saying. And now my picture of what I'm trying to do in my real estate business is coming together, and it's a lot more clear now because of this. And so, but it's the understanding, right? Understanding what you're trying to do, understanding your audience, your target audience, and just making sure again that you know that and you're not just chasing the money, because we all
Yeah.
are guilty of it, man. I'm not gonna lie, I will do that till today, that I will probably say that, okay, that's something I still struggle with. But man, as more of a seasoned person in my business, which is only 5 years old now, it's not like I'm super into it for so long, but man, seeing the little bit of when I say, the gradual success and then boom, it just skyrockets, is because I got a more clear picture of what I want, the services and everything else. I understood who I was trying to target. I understood who I was going after. Before, when I started, it was like everybody. I was the same
Right.
business owner that if a digital marketer sat down with me, drove his ass crazy, because he's like, what, bro?
Like, what are you doing? You're doing everything. You're doing all that.
For everybody, you can't. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, man, you got to understand, and understanding is so important, because again, if you understand, if you're listening really, and you get that goal in your head, or you get that vision, you can execute on it now, man. Because again, all that picture should be clear, and if it's not, you're not asking the right questions, or you're not understanding what the people are helping you, right? When they come
Yeah.
back and give you that answer to your question, or ask you that question, to spur more conversation. Because if you just leave it there, you could be that guy that asked that question. All these people in Clubhouse are trying to help you out, but you never get back on and say anything else, right?
Right.
That's not going to help you out, bro. Right.
It's
So it's
not.
like one of those things is like, man, I got to get on here. I got to understand right now. I got to answer these questions because I have to add value, because I might answer the question. The guy's like, okay, that makes sense. This is what you can do from your initial question to achieve what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, whenever you ask bigger questions, you get bigger answers. That's something that I have been really focused on, because when that happened in that clubhouse room, I was like, man, okay, they followed up with great questions to help me understand how specific I need to be with what I'm looking for. And like you mentioned, they asked questions that I didn't even have on my radar. So
Right.
it made me start to put the puzzle pieces together on what my business could look like. And so that's kind of been my homework. Now I just think of like, what are the best possible questions that I can think of so that I can go into these rooms and ask experts and find answers to questions that I have never asked before. Because I find myself, in a lot of entrepreneurs, I think, do this after you've been doing the same thing a couple of years. Like, I've been in real estate for 3 years in Houston. I feel like I kind of know how it all works and I know the process. And you start to think, like, you get comfortable, right? Like, I know how this works. I know how to get new business, but maybe we're stuck at this plateau and we could be at a new mountain peak, but we're holding ourselves back because we think we know it all and that we don't need to do that self-improvement and that kind of thing. And so maybe I'm not asking big enough questions where I think I'm doing well, getting a couple clients a month, when I could be scaling up and building a team and doing all kinds of amazing stuff if I just ask the right questions. So I think that was really important what you said there in terms of understanding, getting very, very clear. Otherwise, I feel like it's like trying to put a puzzle together. If you don't have a picture of what it's supposed to look like, you wouldn't know where to begin.
Exactly. You wouldn't know, you wouldn't know what puzzle pieces to, like, where does this one go? Is that, obviously you could tell the corner pieces, those are really, and the edges, right? Because they all have the whether it's the corner or they have the flat side. So you can, like, okay, I know,
but that's it
in this area, but do these pieces actually fit together? And they might not.
And what's it supposed to look like? And
exactly. And I think your understanding, and the understanding that comes behind with entrepreneurship and programming your mind for success, is really understanding and utilizing your strengths, right? Figuring out what your attributes for success are, or your attributes of success, right? Because we all can define success differently. Sometimes it's money. Sometimes it's more time with the family. Sometimes, hey, it's going on more vacations. Sometimes whatever it is for your success, quitting the 9 to 5, because right now as an entrepreneurship, that is the side hustle for me, right? Wherever you are in your journey, you have to utilize your strengths. You have to understand your strengths and what you're good at. But once you learn that and ask yourself, what are my attributes of success and how do I define success? It can lead to understanding yourself, because now I know my strengths, but most importantly, now I got to define my weaknesses, right? You got to understand your interpersonal weaknesses. You have to understand your physical impediments, or whatever it is, right? Your mental blocks, whatever slows you down. So really, again, man, understanding, like I said, understanding and listening to yourself, because we all have our own intuition.
Yeah.
Like, if you listen to yourself, not just somebody else, but like there's some things that you go ahead and do, you go past that red flag and your intuition is telling you not to do it, or your intuition is telling you to do something else, but you're like, nah, I'm doing this. Like, you're fighting yourself, man. And you don't even realize it, right? And because you don't, at that specific point in time, even though you might be trying to make this a strength, it might not be, man. It might be a weakness that you need to avoid and have somebody else work in that area for you. Whether it's a VA, bringing somebody on that's better at building ads for you, or creating that, lead gen for you, instead of just relying on the organic traffic, right?
Definitely. And so that's another huge shift for entrepreneurs. A lot of times we think we have to get better at our weaknesses, when really we can just delegate them, outsource them completely. You don't have to. You have to go double down on your strengths and get rid of the stuff that you're weak at. Let someone else handle it, right? And if you have a partner who can take those things on, maybe their strengths are your weaknesses, so you complement each other. That's another great way to get around that as well.
Exactly. I agree 100%, because, man, like, you can be very bad at having a conversation with the individual, but man, if you have a good salesperson, or can hook up with somebody that, like, you might, as an individual or entrepreneur, you might not be a good salesman, right? That's a gift for a lot of people. And it's something that you have to continuously work at. Just because you suck doesn't mean you don't work at it. But at the end of the day, if you're that person that's like, I can't do this, you're right either way, right? It's like you're telling yourself you can't do it. Okay, well, guess what? You can't do
You
it because
can't.
you're telling yourself you can't.
Right.
But if that's something that you know is not a strength of yours and that you don't want it to be a strength and you know it's a real weakness, at some point in time, I think you need to kind of work on that and not really get away, but obviously surround yourself with somebody that can help you sell. Because if you're an entrepreneur and you're not making money, bro, you're really not an entrepreneur, right? I mean, because you have to figure out a creative way, and that is a creative way. Like, okay, I suck with people. Now I'm going to find a salesman that can actually sell my services for me, but you're going to have to pay that individual too, right? So now you're like, now you're in a conundrum and you're like, dude, like, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you're going to have to pay him. So make sure that you either are going to be good at it or you're going to hire somebody that can do it for you.
Definitely. And so, I mean, that's the thing with entrepreneurship. You are trying to figure out how to make all these things happen. You have an outcome in mind, you have a situation, and that comes with the clarity that you talked about. If you don't know what that is, you don't know what you're building towards. So once you know what you want, you can kind of start to put the pieces together of who needs to do what. Maybe people who can do the things that I'm not good at, and maybe I can do the stuff that I love to do. Like for you and I, that probably includes a lot of face-to-face conversations, Zoom calls, podcast interviews, right? Since we're podcast hosts. Exactly. I love this stuff. I could do 5 a day probably. Right. But of course, it's like I got to take some time to do my real estate stuff. I probably got a couple of missed calls. Yep, missed call, voicemail, and a text from clients on deals that I have to get back to as well. But if I could do one thing all day that lights me up, it would be this. And so find what that is for you, for everyone who's listening. It may not be this face-to-face stuff. If you're super introverted and you don't really like to talk to people, you may not want to be doing podcast stuff, right? Because you're going to have to talk to a lot of people. Right. Maybe you can hire someone who can be the podcast host and do all that.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, I'm the same way, man. At the end of the day, I could care less. When I'm doing this right here, talking to somebody, they're on the other end, we make that connection. It's one of those things I can do all day. I can do probably 10 of them, right? You said 5, I can do 10. You know what I'm saying? But I'm sure you could do 2. But it's like, man, it just keeps rolling. Like, hey, where's the next one? Let's line them up. Let's knock it out. But because, like, look, words, and if somebody is truly listening to your show or truly listening to what you're saying, man, again, they're listening. So they're trying to consume what you're putting out. And so that right there is allowing you and me to add value. So as long as we build an audience that we can talk to, and we're not just talking to a wall, and even though we might at the beginning, you're just talking to a wall and it feels like it, you're not getting any traction, but it's all about building those healthy mindset habits, right? We need to start learning as entrepreneurs how to live in the now. We got to really look at, and looking at the value of past mistakes that we've made. We got to learn how to take the potential failures that, the no's, and how to turn them into yeses, and make sure that we continue that success, rotation there. I mean, really, clarity is power, man. And we've already touched on that a little bit, but I can't, reinforce it enough. As long as you have a clear picture, as long as you have a clear projection of where you want to be, what your goal is, what you want to achieve. Again, yes, it takes more than saying I want to make $1 million by the end of 2021. You just got to get out there and make it happen. What are you going to do to implement to get there? What are your specific goals? What are the specific actions of the goals that you have that you're specifically going to take to get to that $1 million, right? We got to learn not only to be in the now, but be the best version of ourselves, brother, every day. You know what I'm saying? We can't let that slip. And when we let it slip, you can really get put in check by really someone that loves you, right? Like my wife, if she catches me, she's like, are you being the best version of yourself today?
Calls you out.
She calls you out. You need somebody to call you out.
You
right?
do.
When you're slipping, man, you have to, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a family member that you talk to on a regular basis, to put you in check from time to time so you don't veer off the path too far, right? Because things that we can do as entrepreneurs to be the best version of ourselves, we got to think of what that is exactly for you. Like you just said, I can see that is talking to people for your podcast, right? And that's the same thing for me. There's some of that, like what makes me the most excited every morning is really doing things not really inside of my digital marketing agency, because that is not very, that's going to be there because that is my core business. But really, man, the grind and the hustle that I enjoy more is actually the podcast side. Because
Exactly.
again, I'm
Same.
networking, I'm getting to meet interesting people, I'm getting to hear stories, whether it's motivational or inspiring, whatever it is, man, it's allowing me to grow my network, meet people that I wouldn't meet on a regular basis without the podcast, and have these awesome guests and awesome stories, man, that might have not been told yet, but also trying to get that value and drawing that value out of them so my listeners could hear it from them. And if my listeners go over to their show and start listening to the show, man, I did my job, right? Like, I don't care. Like, I want them to get it to where we're bringing on so high value people on our show. They're adding so much value to them that they want to listen to them outside of what they're listening to with us, right?
Yeah, that is exactly the point. I mean, if you're not interviewing guests that are interesting enough for people to want to go check them out,
Yeah.
then I don't think you're really connecting with the right people in a way. And I mean, I was guilty of that at the beginning of my show. I did a couple interviews, where I just threw them together, didn't really know if there's any credibility there, if the other person was a great speaker. And sometimes there were, it wasn't the best episode. The audio quality wasn't great.
Right.
I needed a lot of post-production, editing, and all of that. But I mean, that's how you go. We started, you make mistakes, you learn, you get better.
Exactly.
And you get better every single day through these conversations. Like you said, I mean, getting to connect and extract value, because you've got value in you that maybe we didn't talk about today, and I have some as well.
Exactly.
And sometimes it's just the quality of your questions that can help pull that out, because I may not even think to touch on a topic unless you ask me, or vice versa. So I think it's just a skill that we all develop, just like anything else. I mean, you're going to get better from doing more, and like at the gym, more reps, more sets, more frequency, your muscles grow, right?
No doubt, man. I couldn't agree
Awesome.
more, brother. Couldn't agree more.
Good stuff, man. Well, I know we're approaching the end of the hour. Anything else you want to dive in on, or takeaways that you want the audience to walk away with today?
Yeah, man. I just really think about like how I want to close this out is really just to let everybody know that's listening, man, to try to spend each day learning something new.
Yeah.
Right. I know as entrepreneurs, we get lost in all the minutia and all the stuff we got to continue to do every day. But I really want to just challenge everybody that, to never stop learning. Because even though we might be great in what we do in our services that we offer, and we can be great spokespeople or a spokesperson for that specific thing, doesn't mean you don't need to, learn something else. Because no matter how much there's always more room for more information. And just as science discovers that the more that we figure out about the world around us in the universe, man, the more that we realize we don't know much at all.
That's so true.
So like at the end of the day, it works the same way with our learning, and so just spend a little time each and every day learning something new that is going to help you, not only help you, but add value to the individuals that you're trying to help. Right.
Absolutely. And the thing too with traveling, when you travel and you get outside your comfort zone and you go to another city, state, country. I mean, of course, I'm talking about outside of COVID and whatnot. I mean, when you travel and you go into a place where you don't even understand the language, it really makes you feel how small you are. And then you look at the galaxy and like the Milky Way, and then there's so much more. I mean, you can't help but be amazed at how large the world is and how small and kind of insignificant we are to an extent. Like I like to think we can all make a difference in the world and in the lives of others. But, we're kind of a speck of dust in the timeline of our existence. So whenever you make a mistake, I'm just saying, like, don't give up on your dreams or hopes. Like, those things actually matter. What I'm trying to say here to the audience is that if something happens, if you're having a bad day, if you make a mistake, understand it's not the end of the world. Life's going to go on. You're going to be okay. You're going to learn. Life isn't always just a straight line up, right? We know that. We just talked about the roller coaster that we go through every single day. And I think that is something that we need to understand. So Clint, thank you so much, man. This was really, really helpful. Just talking with another entrepreneur who is kind of in a similar spot. Like, you've got your full-time business and then you've got your podcast, which you love to do, and kind of gives you that fuel. And at the same time, we got to do that stuff that we don't always love to do, like working in the business stuff. Sometimes we got to roll up our sleeves and actually do that work as well. Right.
Chris, I appreciate you having me on, man. It was a great conversation, brother. Keep doing what you do. Keep adding value to the world, my man. And like I said, brother, before, I can't wait till we have you on our podcast, That Entrepreneur Life. I'm looking forward to it, brother.
Absolutely, bro. Thank you so much. And where can our audience go to follow you, listen to your show, download your ebook, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, man. Go to thatentrepreneurlife.com. We have the ebook. There's several ways you can get it. It's on a button on the corner. A pop-up will pop up on the screen. Just check us out there and you can find out everything there. And really what me and Andrew have going on and what we're creating. Like, dude, again, we're trying to continue to add value to the world. We're trying to continue to just do this on a daily basis and be like you, man, and strive for bigger and better things every day.
Every single day, man. Just a little bit better every single day. That's all we can do. So thank you, Clint, once again. I will link that up in the show notes, and everyone make sure to go and check out thatentrepreneurlife.com. I'm going to also drop your podcast. I'm going to be on there, I guess, in a couple of weeks or maybe next month or so. I forgot when it was on the calendar, but I'm looking forward to it, man. And I'll get to meet your co-host on that show as well.
For sure. Yep.
Okay.
He'll be there, my man.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much, man. I appreciate your time once again, and we'll connect here soon.
For sure. Peace.